the primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI 6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Joanne Sweeney from the Digital Training Institute. Thank you so much for joining me here on Good Morning Dublin to talk about zero-click, the kind of phenomenon that we're seeing now, especially around AI, especially on Google AI, especially, and how that's going to be affecting small businesses. What exactly is zero-click when we're talking about it?
So zero-click is when somebody goes to the internet to ask a question. So whether it's, what is the best restaurant to have a Chinese in Dublin, but they don't actually click on any link to get the answer because guess what? It's curated by now an AI overview in Google, or you might get it in social search, or you go to a large language model like ChatGPT, and it gives you maybe the top 3 that you can choose from. So now anyone who is marketing their business or their organization, they might have noticed a drop in website traffic, and that's because of zero-click. So you do not get the value of people clicking to your website because now we don't have to.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I suppose the most obvious example is, just as you said there, the kind of Google AI. I know myself, whenever I Google, and it can be arbitrary things, whatever it is, you always see Google AI presenting its answers first. How reliable is that information that you see on Google AI?
Well, listen, this is the big question, isn't it? Well, how reliable is Google, right? Well, Google was built on the promise that when we ask a question, we get the most reliable answer. So your question is very well pointed at me. Now with the large language models, what they are doing is they are aggregating all of the information that is available on the internet, and they are curating what they believe to be the right answer or answering your preference, right? And it just depends. It might not be right because we know the models can hallucinate and they can make things up. So verification and double checking is always the best advice here. But large language models are basically trained on everything that exists on the internet, but not just on Google. Reddit comments, social media, YouTube, and also from information that other ChatGPT users have put into the model. So it's coming from a whole variety of sources and not just Google, where we used to spend most of our time, but our behavior has changed.
Yeah, and it's a funny one, isn't it? Because as you mentioned there, rightly so, a lot of business owners and website owners are really kind of concerned about this now because it's kind of drawing traffic away from their websites. Do we know exactly how much, Joanne, of the traffic is being drawn away by things like Google AI, ChatGPT and the like?
Yes, we do. Right now it's 20%.
Wow.
20% of our answers are coming from the likes of ChatGPT, 80% still Google. And as you will appreciate, this is going to increasingly change. The balance is going to shift. So I guess the advice is for marketers out there and business owners, you've got to get cited in the large language models.
And describe that a little bit, because I imagine a lot of business owners out there or people who have websites for their businesses, especially smaller businesses, are going to be concerned. So do you want to hammer that down a little bit more?
Yes. So a citation basically is when a user puts a question into the likes of ChatGPT and says, top 5 best restaurants in Dublin, that the cited source, so that is a link that's coming from a particular source. ChatGPT will tell you in the main where it got that answer, and you want to be cited. So that's what you've got to achieve. Not only do you want to rank on the first page of Google for particular keywords and questions, you want to get cited now in the large language models for queries and questions that relate to your business. And I guess you're going to ask me, well, how do we do it? What's
exactly, yeah.
What's the plan? Well, there's a couple of ways. The quickest way is, the first, if people are listening, number one, make sure that your website is being crawled by the large language models and that your webmaster or your web developer is not preventing that. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, you know all the questions that your customers ask you. You should be creating FAQs for queries that people are putting into ChatGPT. And if you don't know what they are, you could ask ChatGPT. You could say, hey, I'm a Chinese restaurant in Dublin City. Can you put together the most frequently asked questions that people are searching within ChatGPT to find my business? And then you create content on your website that directly relates to that. And then the other thing is just doing really good original traditional search engine optimization, like the technical, and having, long form content on your website, because the large language models operate very similarly to Google. So that would be my top 4 priorities.
It's interesting hearing you say that, because you are the advice really for business owner then is to use things like AI to kind of almost trick itself to get your content further pushed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big hacks that I give to my students, and I would love to gift it to your listeners this morning, is you should ask ChatGPT or your favorite large language model, first of all, describe your business, describe your product or your service, and then say, based on what you now know about my business, tell me what are the questions that my potential customers are asking, and break those customers into 3 categories. Number 1, they know nothing about my business, so they're unaware. Number 2, they're somewhat aware about my business, my product or service. And number 3, they are very aware about my product or services. And you will get gold. You will get your content marketing strategy with that one simple prompt. So there's no excuse, Michael, anymore for us guessing. Obviously you got to track your analytics and your insights, and all of that good stuff. But there's no excuse anymore for us to be marketing blindfolded.
Fascinating. And for I suppose, Joanne, then my follow-up question regarding what you just said there would be, what would be the advice for smaller businesses? Like, for example, there, you mentioned about that Chinese restaurant. If you go into Google or whatever, and Google AI brings up, here's like the top 3 or 5 in your area. For any small businesses, how do you kind of get on the map, so to speak?
Well, you definitely got to have a Google business listing, because they come up in AI overviews too. So that's really important. And the second thing that I'd be doing is I'd be recording short videos and putting them on YouTube Shorts, because Google is owned by YouTube, and that won't cost you anything. Just pick up your phone and talk about your business.
I suppose that's kind of the same across platforms as well, like Instagram. Obviously, TikTok is probably one of the biggest kind of names in the game, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I suppose just a further question about this whole thing, Joanne, is it kind of in my head, how do we kind of, navigate this space now with these AI tools becoming more prominent?
Yeah, number 1, you just acknowledge that this is the world that we now live in. Number 2, if you're just a user, I actually spoke to somebody this week in London, and he said he hadn't tried, ChatGPT or anything. And I said, well, maybe just download it and just try it for your personal life, organizing your researching for your holiday. But you've got to just choose a source of information, learn about it, and just be curious. But also ask questions like, can I trust it? And if the answer is not 100%, then just always verify your sources.
Joanne, if any of our listeners want to connect with you and learn more about your book, your podcast, and the Digital Training Institute, where can they find out more?
Yeah, go to digitaltraining.ie. You'll see the book there. And yeah, if you want to learn about AI in 6 minutes a day, check out AI 6, the podcast, on your favorite podcast platform.
Brilliant stuff. And just to close this piece, Joanne, my final question would be, so with this kind of 0-click thing becoming default, do you think for any business owners or anyone who are thinking of kind of starting a digital strategy out there, is this a moment of panic, or do you think this is a great opportunity to kind of take on board going forward?
Oh, Michael, I'm so glad you asked that question. Great question. This is a gold opportunity. Most people will do nothing. If you are listening to this, go and act. It's not difficult. There are things that you can do that are very easy, and you know your business what's best. You know your customers best. If you act now, you will be a first mover, an early adopter, and you will get not only clicks, but you'll get impressions too, and you'll get traffic.